So you think you're a contender, huh? Are you sure about that? Maybe what you need to do is go all in. That's what contenders do, right? Go out and get that Bijan. Go get the Gibbs. Go get the Jamar Chase. To quote Uncle Baby Billy, all you need is an 8-ball and $2 million to pull a deal like that off. But before you go blowing your load on trying to grab the sexiest dynasty players out there, let's pause. Let's think through some of these things and figure out if that's a move that fits for your team. Because the worst thing you could do is go all in and end up broke and finishing 5th or something like that. So the first thing you need to focus on is, how does your league actually pay people out? At the end of the day, I mean, we love talking players and all of that. Finding out how to actually win money is kind of the point of this, right? So a lot of times leagues pay out top 2, top 3. So maintaining excellence in those leagues is a lot easier because all you got to do is finish 2nd, finish 3rd, and you're at least getting something back. Versus going all in, trying to win that one season. And that's not even to mention all the randomness that the fantasy playoffs bring from just having head-to-head games that determine your future. So I've talked you off the cliff. How do you round out a contending roster without mortgaging your future? I already assume your team is in a decent situation. How do we actually build out and round out the rest of the team without shipping off all our first-round picks and all our value that we have? Now, if you're a rebuilder, I would recommend maybe not pulling off all these deals. In a rebuilding context, all that matters is value, accumulating value, and eventually building that contender. But when you're in contending mode, it's time to win. It's time to put together a team from top to bottom that's hard to beat. Now, I could bore you with diving into the Dynasty Daddy War Tool and looking in a bunch of advanced analytics, but let's keep it simple. Even just looking at points per game by position, one thing stands out. Quarterback and wide receiver, the dynasty value correlates at a higher rate than running back. Meaning that if I go and pay for Jamar Chase, I can expect him to score a higher amount of points versus going to pay for Breece Hall and then he has a mediocre year. Quarterbacks and wide receivers are more figured out in a fantasy context. So if you're going to pay for a player like that, pay up and consolidate at QB and wide receiver in most types of formats. That means running back can be a little bit more of a hit or miss, gotta catch them all type of thing. Trying to find value at the running back position relatively cheap without mortgaging your future. And I think the running backs, you can see a ton of them are scoring high value numbers in WAR and points per game, all the metrics that you want to look at. A lot of them are flex-worthy starters, but you can get them for less than a second. So today we're going to dive into a bunch of options that I'm going to highly recommend every team. This is a little teaser if you get a roster reviews. I'm always going to say, hey, if you're a contender, these are players that you need to know. Are they on a rebuilding roster? Are they on a team that they don't really need this production? If they don't, go out and buy these players now. Because it's so much harder, even on like a mid-level team, when they have a Derrick Henry who is absolutely ripping the league to shreds. And you're like, can I get him for a late first? And they're like, no, dude, like he's scoring 25 points a game or something. Try to stock up on them right now because timing the market is everything in Dynasty. Speak of the devil, I did spoil the first one. Derrick Henry. Obviously, Derrick Henry was a superstar last season, being in that elite offense with Lamar Jackson, and he got a massive extension this offseason, so he looks like he's locked in for the next 2 years at least. Last year, he had 1,900 rushing yards with 16 rushing touchdowns. Limited receiving upside, so think about that in PPR leagues, but really it doesn't matter a ton when you're nearly pushing 2,000 yards. But 2 receiving touchdowns. He scored 19.2 fantasy points per game. He currently sits on KeepTradeCut at RB20. Which is like a steal if you're actually trying to win. The hard part with Derrick Henry is he's probably on a contending roster just because he had such a dominant 2024 season. So I doubt there's many teams that are in the middle of the pack or lower that have Derrick Henry that's just held on to him all 2024. But he's definitely someone I want to look at. If we take a look at a recent trade, any first, honestly, we get the deal done. It fits both teams' needs, right? If you're offering a rebuilder a bunch of other old crusties, they're going to be like, dude, this doesn't help me. Saying, hey, I'll give you what's probably going to be a late first. You give me a guy that's going to help me win now. Next up, as a Panthers fan, I always support him. Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey had a Barkley plus season in 2023. Led all running backs in PPR points and touchdowns. Dominant season. He previously did have that elite Barkley price tag. If you did watch our Tuesday night live streams at 9 p.m. I did mention one of my contending teams, I did trade 2 first-round picks for Christian McCaffrey mid-2023 season. The price tag was steep then, but now he's hovering around RB 19. And obviously the injury risk is what's baked into it. We don't know how it's going to look, but we do know if he does play, he's going to crush it. And even coming back for 4 games, he put up 200 yards and 146 receiving yards, no touchdowns, but still about 12 points per game. which isn't terrible given this, situation. Obviously, he had like 400 fantasy points in 2023, so I don't need to sell you on why Christian McCaffrey's good. But he is someone that could be on these teams that are in the middle or lower that had Christian McCaffrey, really relied on him, but he busted, and now they're kind of in this retooling state. Be aggressive, see if they're open to moving him. So here's a couple deals that Christian McCaffrey went for today as of recording via the Dynasty Daddy trade database. So Christian McCaffrey for Brandon Ayuk and a 210. I mean, this is a great deal if you're trying to win, right? I mean, Brandon Ayuk is probably going to be banged up or out the entire year. 210, what is a 210 worth in a 12 team? I mean, you're looking at Tootin or someone like that, which isn't going to be a instant plug and play. If you need a guy that can round up the flex spots or even elevate to an RB1, Christian McCaffrey's your guy. Another option here is a 27 first and a third for Christian McCaffrey in the fourth. Again, I think any first at this point, the McCaffrey owner will probably move him unless if a locked-in contender. That's just, ride him till the wheels fall off. Okay. I hear you. You're like, wait a minute. You just said don't sell your future for these crusty running backs. Yes, those are two very high-end options, pretty much locked-in RB1 seasons together if they play. But I'm with you here. Let's get a little crusty. Let's get a little weird. These next players are going for a second or less in dozens of leagues. They're all going to be players that you can feel confident starting in your running back spots or in your flex spots. Some of the best values out there right now. And like I said earlier, it's going to be a lot harder to say, hey, here's a mid to late second for this player. Why won't you take it week 6 when this player's averaging 15 points per game? The time to do these moves is probably right now. We're going to work our way down. First up, Alvin Kamara. The Saints disaster is happening. I don't know what the hell's going on with that offense. But last year, Alvin Kamara did finish as RB at 9 in 2024, averaging 19 points per game. Incredible season there. He had double-digit fantasy points on 92% of his games. He was one of 2 running backs with double-digit games of 5+ targets. This is what Kamara does all the time, right? He had a career-high 950 rushing yards despite missing 2 games last year, and he led all RBs with 64 receptions. This guy's a PPR machine, and I don't see it stopping. Bad QB play doesn't really hurt him either because he's just going to keep getting those checkdowns and things like that. So I expect him to still be a relevant fantasy player. Got that extension. We don't know what the Saints are going to look like. Could just be a good buying opportunity. Let's take a look at a few trades. Alvin Kamara for a 2026 second. If you're a contender, you're like, hey man, this is probably going to be a mid to late second. Alvin Kamara for a second. He's probably going to put up low in RB1, RB2 type season. Give it to me. Here's another one. DJ Moore for Kamara in the third. You get those low-end wide receiver 2 type players. Can you tier down cross-positionally, pick up a little bit of extra value, especially if you're starving for picks? This is a good option. And again, Kamara is a player that you might be able to find on some rebuilding rosters. Next up, let's run to the Houston Texans. Joe Mixon finished as a strong RB1 in 2024, averaging 17 points per game, 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns in 14 games. Impressive season. I didn't expect him to be that remarkable. Not much has changed about his situation. I am a big Woody Marks fan, but he's still the guy. Joe Mixon is still the guy there. And something, too, about the Texans is their defense projects to be one of the best versus a very easy division, so you might see more positive game scripts where they're just trying to run the ball out. Joe Mixon is a great buy, currently sitting at RB 22. Let's take a look at a couple trades. Joe Mixon for Noah Gray in his second. Again, mid to late second, ship it, give me the production. Here's another one, 210 in the 405 for Joe Mixon. Again, he's probably the most expensive one in the crusty range right now, but still, if I can ship a late second and get low-end RB1, RB2 production, sign me up. This is exactly how you round out a roster without mortgaging your future. The question is, how low can we go? Next up, we got Aaron Jones for the Minnesota Vikings. He re-signed there. They did bring in Jordan Mason, so there could be something going on there, but I'm not too concerned about Mason. He wasn't very efficient last year, and Jones was. Jones finished as RB16 in total fantasy points, averaging 14 points per game in 2024. He set a career high in rushing yards and remains a dual threat with over 400 receiving yards. Jones also played all 17 games and provided a consistent RB2 floor. Again, wasn't the sexiest name, but you can get him relatively for cheap. Let's take a look at some offers here. Matthew Stafford for Aaron Jones. If you got that crusty quarterback, you might be able to flip him. Again, players in that range. It's like, I don't really need a Stafford on my roster. I have 3 other quarterbacks. Can I move it cross-positionally, pick up a player that could move into some flex spots for me? Another one, again, I'm going to keep showing these. Mid to late second for Aaron Jones. Give me that all day. If I'm trying to win, give me that easy production. Another one here is a Jalen McMillan for Aaron Jones in a second. This is a fun one where you can take some of those, wide receiver threes that people just like for some reason and tear down and split them. Give me a guy that's going to produce for a year or two. Give me that future pick. That's a great deal. If you could pull deals off like that, I would definitely look for that. Next up, the man that does not stop, James Conner, RB29 for the Arizona Cardinals. Last year, he finished as RB10 overall. Averaged 15.9 fantasy points per game, 1,000 yards, 9 total touchdowns, 400 receiving yards. Similar situation. The big shame for him was he got banged up a little bit in the playoffs, man. I was counting on him. But again, a steal at his price for what his upside is. Let's take a look at a couple offers. Today, we had a Christian McCaffrey for James Conner in the first. To me, I love this type of tear down. It's probably between two somewhat contender teams. But again, if I can take a player, tear down, pick up a first, also get James Conner. James Conner performed better than Christian McCaffrey last year. There's a lot of reasons why that happened, but still, James Conner is a solid producer. Another example of a trade like that, Jalen Waddle for James Conner in the first. Give me that every day. In pretty much any league, I'm taking that type of offer, but especially in a half PPR league like this one. Lastly, here's another fun one. Khalil Shakir for James Conner straight up. I imagine James Conner is going to be way more impactful in a 12-team start 9, especially half PPR. Give me a guy that literally was an RB1 last year. Give me that. Next up, RB 33 on ADP Daddy, Tony Pollard. He's one of my favorite buys right now. Last year, he had 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 41 receptions, 12-point per game score. So a consistent RB2, nothing too flashy, still a little bit younger than some of these other guys I mentioned. But if you look at some of these deals, I mean, dude, they're giving them away. The obvious, Tony Pollard for any second. But you could also package 2/3. Tony Pollard for 226 thirds. I mean, come on, man. If I'm a contender, Tony Pollard's probably someone that's sitting out there. And the thing I just want to focus on, I have a few more, but not all of these guys are going to be on contenders. Some of these guys will be on bad teams. Just try to get them, man. Like, they're so cheap. And if they're on a bad team, it's like, well, yeah, a second or 2/3 is probably more impactful to my team than just holding Tony Pollard. But again, it's going to be a lot harder to buy a guy that scores 12 points per game for 2/3 when it's point scoring season. Next up, Chicago Bears. Unless if something changes, DeAndre Swift, RB1 for the Bears, RB28 on ADP Daddy. He finished last year with 1,300 scrimmage yards, 6 total touchdowns, and provided solid RB2 value in PPR formats. His production was crazy. It was very streaky. He was RB4. Weeks 4 through 8, averaging 22 points per game, but then averaged 9 points the rest of the 12. He didn't score any receiving touchdowns in 2024, so there could be some positive regressions there, even though he's a solid pass catcher. His season was all over the place, but he was a solid performer across the board, and especially weeks 4 through 8. I mean, he was going for first-round picks. Let's take a look at a few trades. DeAndre Swift for Trey Harris. This one is one that makes you think a little bit, I'll be honest. But in a half PPR, if I'm a contender, do I feel confident starting Trey Harris or an RB that's going to touch the ball 15 to 20 times a game? Probably going to go RB here. Another option, again, is the ever-present mid to late second and a fourth for DeAndre Swift. You smash those deals. Here's the bonus pick, RB 43. You can pause it, try to guess. We might have chapters, so it might be spoiled. Rachaad White, RB2 for the Buccaneers. RB 43 on ADP Daddy. Even though Bucky Irving broke out, he finished with 1,000 scrimmage yards and 9 total touchdowns in 16 games. He is a valuable receiver. He had 51 catches and 6 receiving touchdowns and nearly 400 yards. Last year, he was RB24, so very low-end RB2 with 11 points per game. The reason I add him in here is he is basically free, and we saw him produce even with Bucky Irving doing his thing. That offense is powerful. They like to spread the ball around, so Rachaad White isn't just chopped liver. Let's take a look at a few trades. 2026 third-round pick for Rachaad White. Give that to me. I don't even care if he scores a point next year. That's basically a steal. Another one is like Jalen Noel. People get excited for him. But if I'm a contender, give me Rachaad White. I know bye weeks, injuries hit. Rachaad White's a guy. Rachaad White is one injury away from getting Bucky Irving's workload as well. So he's someone that's so cheap. It's hard not to buy him at that price. I know I threw a lot of players at you today, but really what I wanted to take away here is that everyone thinks of the big names, right? The McCaffreys, the Derrick Henrys, but there's a lot of guys out there that are performing rather well, and you can get them for pretty cheap. And if I'm a contender and I'm saying, okay, well, my depth is a little shoddy. I don't know who's my flex 2 option here. Go out and buy these guys for cheap. I don't have to mortgage my future. I can get them now for super cheap, especially some of them like a couple thirds or whatever. And just know that I have a guy that's in some sort of workload. It doesn't need to be sexy. It doesn't be a name that holds some dynasty value. But at the end of the day, I want to win. And In order to win, you need fantasy points, and all these guys are putting up RB2, RB1-ish, and sometimes RB3 seasons. These are bets that I'm willing to make right now when points aren't being scored. All these guys no one wants right now. So anyway, if you stuck through this whole thing, I appreciate the support. Definitely check out Dynasty-Daddy.com for all your fantasy football needs. And if you have any trade questions, check out our trade show Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern every week. We will break down your trades for a couple hours. It is a fun time, and it's always fun to chat with people in the Dynasty space. And until next time, I'll see ya.